Boom! Welcome into Sports Bet. Betting Insight today. Happy Cinco de Mayo out there. Moderation. Be careful. The doubleheader on ESPN NBA Playoffs coming up. We'll do a little deep dive with Major League Baseball as well. Sneak in a little college football. Odds to win the conference already out at CG Technology. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. And Kentucky Derby in a second. Oh boy, not good for the shops at all. The point spread hijinks in the final 10 seconds of the Golden State game. Golden State opened 12.5, closed 14. The news with George Hill out for the Jazz. It's a 13-point game with 7 seconds left. If for whatever reason Gobert fouls Durant on purpose for no reason, it's an 11-point game. Durant knocks down the free throws to put it on 13. And then I can't figure this one out at all. Draymond Green just fouls with 5 seconds left and sends, I believe it was Mack to the free throw line. He makes both. 11-point game. I can't believe it.
I mean, that was as a bizarre and as stressful a finish as you'll ever find here in Las Vegas and offshore. It doesn't matter where you were watching this game. And, of course, it really looked like, it looked like the game was going to land 11. The game's supposed to land 11 right there. And then the weird Gobert foul, which it didn't seem like he was thinking, to send KD to the free throw line. And, oh, no, now the books are really sweating. This game's going to land right in the middle. We got a middle in a Warriors playoff game. Not good for the house. And then you thought the Gobert foul was bizarre. The Draymond, I mean, I still don't understand it. I watched it twice. I do not understand what Draymond Green was doing right there, but it mattered a lot, obviously, both in Vegas and offshore. Shelvin Mack hits the 2 free throws, so even if you got the good number, you didn't cash with Golden State. But here's another game where the Warriors shoot 50% from the floor. They had nearly twice as many assists as the Jazz. They won the rebounding battle by, 9 or 10? They had 14 three-pointers. They had 84% from the free throw line. They won the game by double digits, and they still didn't cover, Pauly. That's the issue with laying these type of prices in an NBA playoff game.
Yeah, and now we've had 9 games in the second round. All 9 decided by double digits. The average margin of victory is 18 points per game. Come on, let's go here.
Well, for all of that talk, here's the second round. These are the good series now. They might be good series. They haven't been particularly exciting games unless you have point spread drama, in which case there's been plenty of excitement like there was in this one.
All right, also bad for the books. Wizards first half and first quarter, now 12-0 this year in the playoffs, 22-2 going back the last 2 years in the playoffs. That's bet the home team down 0-2, first half and first quarter of game 3. Bettors didn't care what the line was first quarter and first half. Remember, this was 4.5 first half, even though the spread was 5 for the game. Wizards blow them out.
Yeah, sure. And you look at the first quarters in this series. Washington 38-24. Washington 42-29. Washington 39-17. Wizards obviously have done very, very well on the first quarter wagers. But here's an angle. We bet it blindly on the play of the day on yesterday's show. We're going to do it again on today's show. Don't want to give it away just yet, but stick around for the play today. You'll see what we're going to talk about. But the concept is the same. The 0-2 team coming home will fight. And yeah, remember, the Wizards got the blowout despite the fact John Wall and Bradley Beal were not that good last night. They combined, 11 for 31 from the floor, 2 of 9 from three-point range. But Boston finally had a game where the shots weren't falling. In fact, for most of the game, the Celtics couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Wizards get the money. Bad result for the books.
Yeah, correct something. The Utah Golden State game, bad bet. Not bad for the books. Could have been bad for the books. This was a bad bet. Phillies Cubs under 8. Bet down to 7. Fell 9 in extra innings. Cubs 14-2 to the over in their last 16.
Yeah, I mean, it was pitcher's weather at Wrigley. So, hence the under money. But they still got 3 home runs hitting that ball game. 25 hits in the regulation 9 innings. And we talked about Chris Bryant's slow start. Oh, he went 4 for 5. He's got 19 hits in his last 10 games, 8 hits the last 3. That slow start is over. And you talk about these trends, the Cubs now 14-2 to the over the last 16, along with the Twins, who were 6-0 to the over last 6, the strongest over teams right now. Even with the weather, I was surprised to see that money come on the under. Turned out to be a bad bet.
All right, look at this. A 15-cent move on the Royals, who can't hit, and they were back in Ian Kennedy. White Sox win again.
Yeah, and it wasn't even close. This one was over early. Wet paper bag, Pauly. You can probably punch your way out of one. I'm not convinced the Royals can hit their way out of one. That offense just can't produce anything right now. And the bad bets for those wise guys who are on the Royals.
This is also tough for the books. Almost a 45-cent move with the Nationals and Scherzer. At home, getaway day, they beat the D-backs 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the smaller bettors, the recreational bettors, lined up with Scherzer over Shipley. Not in love with Shipley, but the Nats wheeled into a ton of parlays yesterday as well. So you had the straight bet action and you had the parlay action, neither of which was a good result for the books.
Last year, we did Kentucky Derby. We're not doing it this year. I encourage people to throw some money down on it, take a shot. Who knows, you get lucky and hit the super. The favorites won 4 years in a row. It's tough, though, Teddy. No Kentucky Derby expert on this year. Explain why.
Well, look, this is why we're not going to try to handicap the Kentucky Derby for you. Our goal is to provide you with useful information that will help you win both short-term and long-term. This is Sports Central for gamblers. It really is. And the Kentucky Derby is the ultimate public race. All right? It's hard enough to beat horse racing when we talk about a 20% pari-mutuel takeout. Okay? When you start talking about a 20% pari-mutuel takeout and then you're trying to handicap a 20-horse field and still find value in a race filled with randomness, I'm telling you, Pauly, it's really hard to do. And the track record, I've been in Vegas almost 20 years now. The experts for this race, they're no better than the track record of the average Joes. This isn't Breeders' Cup. Breeders' Cup, you can find legit opportunities. There are guys I trust to bring on the show with good track records. But this race, it's about as random as it gets. It means if you want to bet it, I'll offer this advice. Bet small, not large, recreational wagers only for the Kentucky Derby for this bettor.
All right, up next, big game breakdown, the doubleheader on ESPN. Can Toronto get back into this series? And what are the Spurs going to be like without Tony Parker on SportsBet? Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBet, Betting Insight today. Time for big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbook review, and SBR odds. Make sure you're betting with a trustworthy shop out there. Game 3 tonight. LeBron's won 9 straight. Cavs have won 9 straight in the playoffs, but in the last 9, LeBron's averaged 35 points per game in the stretch. And here it is. Cavs 2 and look at this. Cavs are 2.5 on the road, 214.5 the total. Cavs favored for the game. Raptors favored first quarter and first half, Teddy. They're 1.5 in Vegas and they're 1 offshore in the first half. Have you ever seen that before?
Never once. I've been in Vegas since 1998, and I cannot recall a previous instance where a team was, and we're not just talking about, Cleveland -1. Cleveland's 2.5 for the game. They might be 3 by tip-off. And yet Toronto favored anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5. All the books in Vegas have Raptors 1.5, and offshore it's either 0.5 or -1 for Toronto. I don't ever recall. I mean, maybe there's one that I don't remember, but I don't remember one, Pauly. Do you?
No, never. I talked to some other people who said they've never seen it before as well, and they've been around this racket for a long time. Game 1 was 116 to 105. Game 2 was 125 to 103. Domination by the Cavs, even greater than the numbers. Look at points per 100, offensive and defensive efficiency, and the net points. Cleveland on offense, 118.9. Defense, 101.4. Net plus 17.5. Toronto, 101.4 on offense, 118.9 on defense. But look at this with the big three: Kyrie plus 42, Love plus 34, and James plus 21. It has been a unmitigated disaster for Lowry and DeRozan, especially DeRozan. Minus 39.2. Only 5 points in game 2. He hasn't done anything in this series, and hasn't been able to get to the free throw line either.
Yeah, I mean, for Toronto to compete in this series, they need their guards to play at an elite level. When you think back to the, say, the Blazers-Warriors series, in that game 1, when Portland hung around for a long, long time, what was it? The guards playing really well. Game 3, when they took that big lead and covered the spread at halftime, what was it? The guards playing really, really well. The Raptors have a pair of all-star caliber guards. Okay, they have not played well in this series, not even close. And to make matters worse for Toronto, I mean, the Cavs, their offense is clicking right now. LeBron's been brilliant, but Kyrie Irving, back-to-back 20 and 10 games, 24 and 10 in the opener, 22 and 11 in game 2. And that's only in 32 minutes a game. And I'll tell you what, the Cavs spacing has been so good that it's difficult for any defense to counter. You know, they made their first 8 3-pointers against Toronto in game 2, even with the Raptors making adjustments to try to take those shots away.
Casey made some adjustments. He put Powell and Patterson in the starting lineup, Valanciunas to the bench. Valanciunas knocked down a lot of shots, but didn't do much. Here's Casey, quote, "The thing about it is we're in the same place we were last year. Until a team wins on another team's court, it's a series. We go back to Toronto. They play well. We shake their hand. They shot great. LeBron, this was big. LeBron shot 21 free throws. We shot 19 as a team. Make sure you get that out there. We played well, but we haven't scratched the surface of where we can go," end quote. DeRozan, 2 of 11. Didn't make a shot in the first half. It sucks to lose like we did. To play like I did, it sucks. It's frustrating. I've added time having to wait until Friday night to redeem myself, end quote. Now you got to worry about Lowry's ankle as he left in the third quarter, didn't play in the fourth, Teddy, of game 2.
Yeah, and the question is, I mean, Lowry was clearly not 100%. He was clearly limping up and down the floor. And the game conditions, you know, where Cleveland was just blowing him out, obviously, you take him out, he's not coming back in that ballgame. The question is, how serious is this injury? Is it going to impact him at all? Is it the kind of thing that could have a significant impact? Because, you know, again, the Raptors aren't going anywhere in this game, in this series, in first half or anything, unless Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan bring it. You know, those two haven't been able to bring it so far. This, in theory, is the game that they're supposed to do that. And obviously, when it comes to the first quarter, first half, we know where the money's going to come already. You know, if you like the Raptors and want to make those bets, that's one you got to run to the betting window, not walk. There will be others in line to make that same wager.
All right, 2-0 Cleveland, just like last year in that one. This is game 3, the doubleheader on ESPN, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Series tied at 1. Rockets won game 1, 126-99. Spurs won game 2, 121-96. Rockets 4.5, 214.5 the total. Rockets $1.25 adjusted series price. Parker out for the rest of the season. And look at this. Anatomy of the Spurs spurt. 88-83 entering the fourth, anybody's game. Then the lineup was Parker, Mills, Gasol, Ginobili, and Simmons. 9-0 run. And then when you had the injury substitution and what Pop decided to do, a huge run after that, 30-5 without ever having 2 bigs in the game at the same time. Where do they go from here without the leadership and experience of without Parker, Teddy?
Well, yeah, again, look at that lineup where they started the run in game number 2. Parker and Mills, so they have the 2 point guards on the floor. Ginobili and Simmons, 2 wings, and then Gasol was the big man. And when you look at the substitution patterns, Green coming in for Ginobili, Leonard coming in for Parker, Ginobili coming in for Mills, Aldridge coming in for Gasol, Lee coming in for Aldridge. By the 4-minute mark, obviously, it was, you know, mass substitution. The game was over. Ball game by that. But that run was keyed without having the 2 bigs on the floor. And this is a Spurs team that spent the whole season basically with 2 bigs on the floor. You look at the graphic with the fourth quarter minutes, you know, and this is a team that usually has 2 or the 3 on the court all the time, and yet in the fourth quarter combined for less or just about 8 minutes between the trio. The question is, can San Antonio do that same thing without Tony Parker on the floor? Because remember, Patty Mills, maybe he's a 25-minute guy, maybe he's a 30-minute guy without Parker. He's not someone that's going to be able to play 48 minutes for Pop and company.
Harden was awful in game 2. I agree with Reggie Miller. I think he got hurt in the first quarter. In any event, he was 3 of 17, and he was 1 of 8 on 2-point shots. The only making was a tip-in on his own miss. Here's his quote. "I just missed shots. I didn't convert layups. We knew we were going to come out with some aggressiveness. We just have to go out there and take care of our business and do the things we didn't do tonight," end quote, which was win the battle on the boards. Spurs out-rebounded Houston 48-32. Where were the big men? Capella, 24 minutes, 3 rebounds. Nene, 17 minutes, didn't grab a rebound. Capella and Nene combined for 24 points on 10 of 14 shooting, but didn't do anything on the glass. But I like the fact that the Rockets were only down. There's actually a 3-point game late in the third quarter, and they were horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 5-point game at the start of the fourth. And again, they're minus 16 on the glass. And San Antonio probably supposed to win the rebounding battle here, but not by that type of margin. And remember, we were talking about how good Capella was in game one. They got the job done offensively. But for the Rockets to cover this number, yeah, making shots is going to help. Yeah, another 3 of 17 performance from Harden isn't going to work it. Isn't going to do it. But if you ask me what's the key stat, I want to know what the interior play is for those Houston big men. I want to see if the Rockets can hang tough on the boards, battle even with Houston, with San Antonio in that regard. And, of course, the three-point shooting and Harden shooting going to matter so much in that regard as well. But for Houston not to get punked on the boards in this one will go a long, long way towards a series that has shown a little bit of zigzag the first 2 games.
All right, up next, the deep dive. A little defense in Major League Baseball and quick hitters in college football, plus the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping up on SportsBit. Have a good weekend out there. Enjoy Cinco de Mayo. Time for the deep dive. Let's set up your MLB weekend by talking some defense. It takes the first 25 games for the numbers to matter, but a major hidden element, because the toughest part to chart from box scores in the markets can fall behind. Let's talk defense, Teddy. What do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And the best, on yesterday's SportsBit, we talked about bullpens and how those bullpen ERAs are such a key indicator of profitability. All right, and we talked lineups as well, where the teams that can't hit aren't making anybody any money. The third piece of the MLB profitability triad is defense. And defense of the three, nobody talks about defense. Defense is not factored into any line all year long. I want to talk paid here. Park-adjusted defensive efficiency. And again, about 25 games in, these numbers start to mean something. So let's look at who the best defensive teams are so far this season. The White Sox, the Marlins, the Reds, the Twins, the Phillies, all of which are something of a surprise. And this White Sox team, their bullpen's been the best in baseball so far. Tim Anderson getting the job done on the defensive end. You look at the impact of someone like Billy Hamilton has had for Cincinnati out in the outfield. These are legitimate difference makers defensively. And none of these teams, Pauly, with the exception of the Reds, were better than average defensively last year. The Twins and the Phillies were near the bottom of the defensive rankings last year. So the paid numbers starting to be worth looking at right about now as we get in to the second week of May.
How about the worst?
Well, the worst, you look, the worst defensive team so far. The Tigers at ranked 26th. The Mets ranked 27th. The Brewers ranked 28th. The Blue Jays ranked 29th. The Indians ranked 30th. And again, of those teams that are at the bottom, Toronto was number 4 last year. Cleveland was number 10. So we're seeing some significant drop-offs from these squads. And again, look at the teams on the list. You're not making money with the Mets or the Blue Jays or the Indians right now. The Mets need healthy pitchers, strikeout batters. Jose Reyes, I don't even know if he knows what he's doing on the field anymore. And it's kind of the same story with Troy Tulowitzki, not the defensive player that he once was, even a few years ago. He hasn't done anything good since he went to Toronto. And to be honest, I'm not a Tulowitzki fan at this stage of his career.
All right, and a lot of football coming out early. Sunday, NFL win totals, Virgin numbers at the South Point, and the M Resort, well, we'll call it CG Technology, came out with college football odds to win the conference.
One that stands out to me, Pauly, without a doubt, is in the Big 12 Conference, where there is no true elite teams. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are the favorites. But look at TCU at 11-1 in a conference where they're live, in a conference they've shown they can win and compete. This is a squad that was competing for national titles, 3 years ago? And they're bringing everybody back. I thought TCU at 11-1 is a bad number. That's an outlier number. I don't think it's going to be there for a particularly long period of time. And we got to talk one more, Pauly, but you're going to make fun of me because I'm a homer on this one, aren't you?
Don't tell me.
I'm telling you, UNLV at 30-1 to win the Mountain West. And of course, I'm not a homer.
They can't win 3 games, Teddy. Come on.
I could care less about UNLV. I'm joking as me being a homer. I've made a lot more money betting against the Rebels than I've made on them. But it is a weak league. It is an improving program, and it's an improving program fairly quickly. The Rebels have the potential to make a huge leap this year. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying as a 30-1 dog, maybe they're live.
You just made the case for New Mexico. Cut it in half, 15-1. That's a better bet. So Teddy likes TCU 11-1 to win the Big 12. Let's go with Money Time Play of the Day. Winner yesterday. Let's keep going. It's amazing but true. It's 12-0 this year in the NBA playoffs. First quarter and first half. The home team in Game 3 down 2-0 in the series. That means the Raptors, who are underdogs for the game, but favored in the first half. It's 1 offshore. It's 1.5 in Vegas as we tape this. Depends where you get it. Lay the 1 or the 1.5. Hell, even go money line if you want. Raptors to get there in the first half. See if it goes to 14-0, 22-2 the last 2 years. When we come back next week, more NBA playoffs, of course. See if we get some competitive games. And we'll start NFL team previews. Can't wait on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.